Welcome back to IGCSE Biology. We are on the lecture 2 of chapter 2 cells. In our last video, we covered the animal cell in complete detail with all 5 organelles and their functions. Now it's time to discuss plant cells. Plant cells share many structures with animal cells, but they also have 3 additional structures that make them completely unique. And these 3 structures come up in almost every single IGCSE biology exam paper. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what each structure is, what it does, and how the plant cell compares to the animal cell. So let's look at the plant cell diagram firstly. The first thing you will notice in the cell is its rectangular, fixed, rigid shape, and the reason for that is the thick green border surrounding the entire cell, which is a cell wall. On the inside the cell wall is a semi-permeable or partially permeable cell membrane. Now the plant cell have 2 separate structures. They have both a cell wall and a cell membrane. The large blue space taking up most of the center is the vacuole. In plant cells, the vacuole is enormous. It is filled with liquid called cell sap. The dark blue oval shape in the corner is nucleus, and it is where the DNA is stored. The bright green oval shapes surrounding around the edges are chloroplasts. They contain the green pigment that gives plants their color. The orange ovals are mitochondria, powerhouse of cells, and the tiny red dots are ribosomes, which are involved in protein synthesis just like animal cells. You have to remember one key point, that the irregular shape of animal cells is because they have no cell wall. But the plant cells have a rectangular, fixed, rigid shape because of the presence of cell wall. Now we will look at the cell wall in detail. Look at the diagram. You can see the thick green band on the left, that is cell wall. Just inside it, a thin teal line is cell membrane. These are 2 completely separate structures with completely different functions. What is the cell wall made of? It is made up of cellulose. Cellulose is a complex carbohydrate made of thousands of glucose molecules joined together in long, strong fibers. These fibers are crisscrossed over each other to form a very tough layer. Interestingly, paper is also made from cellulose. Now the most important property of cell wall is it is fully permeable. Look at the arrows on the diagram. Water, oxygen and carbon dioxide. All molecules can pass freely throughout the cell wall, and it does not control the entry or exit of molecules. So if it is not controlling the entry or exit, what is the purpose? This comes in your mind. So the basic purpose is it provides support. When a plant cell absorbs a lot of water, the vacuole fills up and pushes outward. If the cell wall is absent, what would happen? The cell would simply burst out. The cell wall is strong enough actually to resist this pressure. It keeps the cell firm and gives its fixed shape. The critical exam point is animal cells never have cell wall, only plant cells, fungal cells and bacterial cells have them. Now we will discuss the large permanent vacuole. Look at the left hand side, this is a turgid cell. Turgid means firm and full of water. The vacuole is completely full of cell sap. It is pushing outward against the cell wall. This makes the cell rigid and firm. This is the normal healthy state of a plant cell. But on the right side is a wilted cell. The vacuole is empty, no water is inside present, the cell becomes soft and floppy, and when millions of plant cells do this at the same time, then the whole plant wilts and droops. This is exactly what happens when you forget to water your plants. If you are not watering your plants, then the vacuoles will empty out, the cells lose their firmness and the plant droops. When you will water the plant, vacuoles fill up and the plant stands upright again. Now what is inside the vacuole? It contains the cell sap, which is a solution containing water, dissolved sugars, mineral salts, and other substances. The word permanent is very important here. In mature plant cells, the vacuole is always there. It is a permanent feature. Compare this to the animal cells which do not have a large permanent vacuole. They actually have very small temporary vacuoles called as vesicles. So this difference comes up in exams constantly, and we will see it in the examiner trap slide as well. Now we will see chloroplast, which is one of the most important organelles in biology. Look at this diagram. It has two membranes, an outer membrane and an inner membrane. Inside you can see stacked green layers. These are called as thylakoid membranes. And this is where the chlorophyll pigment is stored. What is chlorophyll? Chlorophyll is the green pigment inside chloroplast. It actually absorbs energy from sunlight. This is why plants look green, because of the chlorophyll inside their chloroplast. And you can see in the equation as well, when the light energy is basically falls on the plant, it is used to do something incredible. It converts carbon dioxide and water into glucose and oxygen. And this process is called as photosynthesis, one of the most important chemical reactions on Earth. Every breath of oxygen you take came from photosynthesis. Every piece of food you eat, the energy in it came originally from photosynthesis. You can also see the starch grain in the diagram. Basically, this amber oval shape is a starch grain, and when the chloroplast actually makes more glucose than the plant needs, so what happens? This extra glucose is stored in the form of starch in the plant. So the chloroplast converts it into starch and stores it right inside the chloroplast in the form of starch grains. Now a very important exam point is there, that not every plant cell has chloroplast. Chloroplast will be present in the green parts of the plant like leaves, green stems. Now let's see. You will notice that you have to remember this thing, that chloroplasts are present in green parts of plant. What does it mean is, in root cells, they are underground, so there will be no sunlight reaching underground, and there cannot be any process of photosynthesis there, so they do not even need the chloroplast. So they don't have chloroplast. So if the examiner asks you that do all plant cells contain chloroplast, the answer will simply be no. Look at this comparison table. It appears in almost every paper. Look at the two diagrams on the top. You can differentiate. You can see the difference in the shape. But if you will look at the table, the first 5 rows: cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, mitochondria, and ribosomes. They are the shared structures present in both animal and plant cells, because both cell types need them and have them. But the bottom 3 rows, cell wall, large permanent vacuole, and chloroplast, are only present in plant cells. Now notice the last row, chloroplast. It does not just say present, it says in green parts only, because not every plant cell has chloroplast, only those in the green parts of the plant have them. So the examiner can ask this comparison in many ways, like if they ask you name 3 structures that are found in plant cells but not in animal cells, the answer will be cell wall, large permanent vacuole, and chloroplast. But if they ask you name 5 structures found in both the animal and plant cells, you have to mention cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, mitochondria, and ribosomes. Now there is an examiner trap time. 3 classic mistakes that can happen in these questions are: trap 1. Students write, the cell wall controls what enters or leaves the cell. This is wrong, because that is the job of cell membrane, which is partially permeable. But the cell wall is fully permeable. Everything can pass through it freely. Its job is just to support and shape, not controlling the entry or exit of molecules. So cell wall and cell membrane are two completely different structures with different functions. You do not need to mix them up. Trap 2 is students write that chloroplasts are present in all parts of the plant and all plant cells contain chloroplast. So this is wrong because chloroplasts are only in the green parts of the plant. Root cells have no chloroplast because they are underground. There is no light and no photosynthesis can happen. So there is no need of chloroplast there. Always say that cells in the green parts of the plant have chloroplast, not all plant cells. Now trap 3 is students write animal cells have a large permanent vacuole just like plant cells. No, this is wrong. Animal cells have small temporary vacuoles called as vesicles, but plant cells have large one permanent vacuole filled with cell sap. So difference is large versus small, permanent versus temporary. Cell sap versus just fluid. These are the very different things and you have to remember these traps so you will not lose your marks. Now here is the complete picture, a conclusion diagram of what we discussed today. On the left, three structures unique to plant cells are cell wall and vacuole and chloroplast. But on the right side, the structures which are shared in both animal and plant cells are nucleus, mitochondria, ribosomes. But at the bottom, the two groups clearly separated. Green box only in plant cells, cell wall, large vacuole, chloroplast. Teal box shared with animal cells. What is cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, mitochondria and ribosomes. You can screenshot this slide and use it for revision everything you need in one picture. That is for lecture number 2. In our next video, we will look at something completely different, bacterial cells. Subscribe so you do not miss it. See you in the next one.